Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to this extraordinary meeting of South Cambridgeshire District Council. My name is Councillor Peter Sanford and I am the Chair of the Council. My Vice Chair is Councillor Eileen Wilson. As usual, this meeting is being live streamed and recorded. We also allow recording, filming and photography so long as the meeting is not disrupted. Please ensure your phone is on silent. You should keep your microphone switched off until you are invited to speak. If participating remotely, when you are invited to address the meeting, please make sure your microphone and camera are switched on. And then, when you have finished addressing the meeting, please turn your microphone and camera off. Members attending remotely should indicate their wish to speak through a chat message in the Teams meeting. Those present in the chamber should indicate their wish to speak by raising their hand. I will ask the Vice Chair to note the order of speakers. The chat facility should not be used for any other purposes except, where necessary, to write down a simple amendment. Complex amendment should have been shared with Democratic Services in advance of the meeting. When we move to a vote on any item and there is not clear affirmation, I will state that a recorded vote will be taken. Members in the chamber will then vote electronically, selecting for, against or abstain. The result will be displayed. The meeting is quorate, so we will proceed. Item 1, apologies. Democratic Services, are there any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillors Drew, Van der Ven, Bear Park, Rippeth, Leeming, Stobart, Fane, Jackson Wood, Atkins, Osborne, Warren Green, Ariel Khan, Rickson and Van der Weyer. I understand Councillor Henry Batchelor is going to be a bit late, and we have Councillor Hoffman, Councillor Nieto and Councillor Richard Williams online with us at the moment, along with Councillor Batchelor, I think.
Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest. Do any members have any interest to declare in relation to any item of business on this agenda? Councillor Bradnam, please.
Thank you, Chair. As a county councillor, I attended the council meeting on the 21st of October, at which this same subject was considered. I refrained from, the proposal was to put forward option A. I refrained from voting in that vote, so I come to this matter afresh. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other declarations of interest? Okay, I see no hands. Thank you all. If an interest becomes apparent later in the meeting, please raise it at that point. We now come to the substantive item on this evening's agenda, which is on local government reorganisation. I invite the Leader of the Council to present the report and move the recommendations. Councillor Smith.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, so I will stand up. So this is one of probably the most important thing that we've ever done in South Cambridgeshire, and certainly the most important thing that we've done while I've been leader. So today our job is to consider the decision, our response to the government's requirement for local government reorganisation across the whole of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. As everybody here now knows, because we've talked of little else for the last nearly 2 years, government's requiring all two-tier areas to move to unitary structures. I've consistently said this was not a path that I personally would have chosen for South Cambridgeshire at this point in time, though actually, it is something that that we might have, we probably would have considered in the near future. But there's no doubt the government's determined to proceed, and the options for us are either not to engage at all or to use our voice to shape the future of local government in our area and get the very best outcomes we can for our residents. So, we decided some time ago that we would do this, and we do it really well. So ultimately it is government, or rather the Secretary of State, who decides what will happen. A number of proposals have already been earmarked for submission, and it's been a busy time in local government in all the areas with two-tier local authorities. And we do have a responsibility to take part in this process on behalf of our residents and put forward to government the option that we really believe is best. So over recent months, 5 options have been developed by councils across our county, and after careful consideration, considerable engagement and very detailed analysis, this report recommends that this council supports option B as our preferred proposal, and I've made that very clear in recent weeks. I take comfort that option B, nobody can accuse us of being politically parochial about option B, because it's been contributed to and supported by councillors from across the political spectrum, including Anna Bailey leading the Conservative administration at East Cambridgeshire, and Cameron Holloway leading the Labour administration in Cambridge City, and of course the Liberal Democrat administration here. I'd like to thank both Anna and Cameron for how collaborative they've been throughout the whole process. We don't always see eye to eye on every political issue, but we all agree really strongly that option B provides the best opportunity for our region to thrive. And that isn't just Greater Cambridge, it's for the whole of the region to thrive. So why option B? It offers the most balanced economic footprint and aligns the new councils with our functional housing and labour markets. It delivers financial resilience, and if you look at the chart, the chart that benchmarks it against the government's priorities on page 8 of the report, I think it's 26 of the overall report, you'll see that it is it's the most financially advisable recommendation putting forward. So it delivers financial resilience with projected annual savings of 42.8 million, and this is what government wants. It wants money saved, and payback by 2030-31, and that's great. That's a greater saving and earlier payback than any other option. And some councils which have moved into unitaries recently are looking at many, many years before they get the payback on their investment. So they're doing it within 4 years is actually quite extraordinary. It's vital that our public services are sustainable. Both the new unitaries will have to grapple with those demand-led services that have squeezed council budgets the most and actually caused many councils to fall over in very recent years. The analysis shows that option B supports sustainable public services much, much better than any other option, ensuring not only that Greater Cambridge will be able to thrive, but just as importantly, ensuring that the Northern Unitary has the scale to deliver high-quality services despite the high demand for them in Peterborough and Fenland, and which, if you took either East Cambridge or Huntingdon out of the equation, would put that at considerable jeopardy. Cambridge has seen more reorganisation than most in recent years, and it has more layers of government than nearly any other part of the country. Option B comes with the benefit of building on familiar geographies. Our residents already know what Greater Cambridge means, and they live their lives crossing the South Cam city border on a daily basis. Similarly, option B would mean that the Northern Unitary would contain the entirety of the old Isle of Ely, rather than cutting the Fen communities in half. And if we talk about detail, it means that Greater Cambridge gets the cultural centre of Cambridge City, and the Northern Unitary gets the cultural centre of Ely, and obviously, Peterborough has a cultural offer there as well. So it kind of shares the loveliness, the things that really matter to people. Taking both the cultural centre of Ely into Greater Cambridge would be grossly unfair to those people living in the Northern Unitary. Option B would also simplify the transition period and protect existing high-quality services, including our award-winning shared planning service and the shared waste service. And the fact that we already share these very key strategic services means that it would be as painless as it possibly could be. And I've done work with some other recently created unitaries where it is taking them years and years to amalgamate their services, but we're absolutely on the front foot here with option B. The government's already earmarked our area as a focus for growth, and we need to make sure we speak with one voice when dealing with the government. And option B gives our area one undivided voice, which aligns with the government's vision for economic growth in our area. This recommendation follows extensive engagement with our communities. Across Cambridge and Peterborough, over 3,100 residents' responses, 767 staff submissions and 231 stakeholder contributions were received to our joint consultation. And the message was really clear. People do want simpler structures, but they won't accept them if they don't deliver better services and stronger local representation.
Please draw your remarks to a close, Leader.
In the further engagement, may I have special, thank you very much, not much longer. In the further engagement exercise we did alongside Cambridge City Council, 69% of respondents either agreed or strongly agreed with option B, compared to 24% who disagreed or strongly disagreed. Tonight, we're asked to note the report and recommend option B to Cabinet for approval. I should remind members that while the decision is legally an executive one and therefore must be taken by the Cabinet, we will, of course, be led by what this Council recommends to us. This is about shaping a future that works for our communities, one that balances economic strength, financial sustainability, and democratic accountability. I look forward to a constructive debate this evening. I'm sorry I wasn't at the scrutiny because I was on holiday, and I gather that was a really productive, worthwhile debate and scrutiny. And I hope for your support in ensuring that South Cambridgeshire plays a leading role in this historic charge. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Leader. Is there a seconder? Councillor Milnes, are you going to reserve your right to speak?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'll reserve my right.
Thank you. Do any members wish to speak on this item? Councillor Heather Williams, please.
Thank you, Chair. We have an amendment that is with Democratic Services. If we could move that now,
Thank
probably
you.
best
Can
timing.
you display that on the screen, please, Dem Services? I think that's pretty clear. Leader, do you accept this amendment?
I accept the amendment.
Thank you. It needs to be seconded. Councillor Cohen, thank you. And as it's been accepted, we'll continue debate based on the amended text in front of us, not the text in the original packs. So does any member wish to speak on this item? Councillor Bradnam.
Thank you, Chair. Under criterion 3 of the government's requirements, I remind you it says unitary structures must prioritise the delivery of high quality and sustainable public services to citizens. And A of that criterion states proposals should show how new structures will improve local government and service delivery and should avoid unnecessary fragmentation of services. And so as chair of the under that criteria, option B benefits from the existing collaboration between Cambridge City Council and South Cambs District Council in our shared Greater Cambridge Shared Planning Service. And we, as chair of the South Cambs District Council Planning Committee and previously chair of the Joint Development Planning Committee, which is hosted by the city, Joint Development was Control Committee, but now Management Committee, we have worked through a planning review which has achieved harmonisation of the two parts of the service so that we now work and follow the same procedures and processes for our shared service. And that has been an improvement and a strengthening of our service that ensures that we work to the same principles, we follow the same processes and the same procedures. And certainly from my point of view in terms of planning, I think that demonstrates that we do not want a situation where the unitary that we're in has additional parts to it that have not previously followed that procedure. It's taken us a long time to get there, and in fact, as a result of the work that we've done, our planning service is an award-winning planning service, which we're very proud of. And so my argument would be that just in this one aspect alone, it's important that we continue to work in that way together. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Bradnam. Councillor Heather Williams, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just before I say what I want to do on local government reorganisation, we have become aware that some members of the council have access to more information than others in relation to option A in the business case. Could we have an update as to whether that is the case or not, and if so, why not all members in this chamber have the same access to information?
Chief Executive wants to come in on that point.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. The Chief Exec of the County Council published a later version of option A, it shared it in a Teams group with all the Chief Executives, I think last Monday. I asked whether it could be published, and he said no, and so I haven't shared that with anybody.
But Chair, am I right in saying that all county councillors were given a copy of that business case? And in other councils it has been shared, although not published.
I don't have that information. If you can come back, please.
I have no idea what other councils have done. I just know that we were told that we couldn't publish it.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for that clarification. I will speak to local government reorganisation, and I will start by saying that it is a great shame that we don't have the full facts in relation to all the business cases. Those facts are obviously available, and in other authorities have been shared, although not published. I appreciate that's a county council decision, but I think it is outrageous, to be quite frank, that they have withheld that information from the public and also from us today. The leader referred to option B being the quickest on the payback period. If I could ask members to draw their attention to page 105, you'll see that that's not quite the case, unless I misunderstood the leader. Option C has a payback period of 2 years. The savings are less, but the costs are significantly less at its implementation. Option B is the most expensive option to bring into being, whereas option C does not, which is why we asked for the inclusion. I would also say that I have sympathies with everybody in this chamber that thinks that there's absolutely no mandate for this to be happening, and absolutely ridiculous situation that we're having to waste so much time at a point when the country actually needs Cambridgeshire to be doing what it always does and be a cash cow for the Treasury, and instead we are having to have these discussions rather than actually getting on with the job. And the real issue is that residents will suffer as a consequence. It will destabilise things however much you try to mitigate it. It's not going to be a good time for local government, and we all know that national government can make as many announcements as they like. They don't empty a single bin, they don't really determine planning applications, they don't do the day-to-day graft that we do in local government and that officers do. So if there's any way for the leader to feed that, please put it in their pipe and get them to smoke it. I personally think that for our residents in South Cambridgeshire, and particularly my residents where I represent, which is, let's face it, there's not going to be party consensus. We've just got to do what is right and what we feel is right for people. That option C provides more balance, and I think it is the most likely to be sort of accepted and successful with government, given that it's more balanced on the figures. As I previously referenced, the payback period is the shortest, and we need residents to be feeling any potential benefits, and there will be some of this as soon as possible. But one of the key things for me about option C is we have a strategic corridor through ours and Hunt's, which is the A14, A428 corridor. We can already see through our local plan, we see what's happening in the Hunt's local plan, that corridor is getting a bit congested, but needs a lot of investment. And actually, I think having that corridor under one authority would make sense for residents and help them benefit. Crucially as well, the rural balance. If we just go in with city, There will not be that rural balance. We know we're getting towns in South Cambridgeshire for the first time in this local plan. There are more to come, no doubt. We need to make sure that everybody gets proper representation, and that cannot happen under option B. The survey was reflected, but when we looked at who responded to that survey, it was already urban dominance from Cambridge City residents, not those South Cams voices. They're the ones that were least happy about
Draw
the
your
option.
remarks to a close, please, Councillor Williams.
I will do.
Thank you.
The overheads will be spread over more people in option C. Option B is already going. Okay, that's already happened, and that's fine. Let's give option C a chance. Let them assess it. The government's going to do what they want to do anyway, I have no doubt. But option C, both on paper and for our residents, is the best option for people that are living in South Cambridgeshire. Please remember that's why we're here, and that's what we're here to do. And if you can, vote for option C.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Bill Handley, please.
Thank you, Chair. I must say that I found the arguments in our papers in favour of option B quite compelling. I was particularly interested in the section on page 25 under the heading What Our Residents Told Us, which relates to the public consultation. I mean, after all, we are here to look after the best interests of them, of our residents. And it says quite clearly that whilst most were positive about reorganisation, they hoped for continuity of service and for reforms that give us sound council finances, and I believe that option B will do those things. The figures that really stand out are, when asked if they supported option B, 63.5% of residents agreed that they supported option B, with only 29% saying that they did not. Speaking in my ward generally about the concept of unitaries, people seem to see the merits of changing to a unitary. They can see the advantages, but they are really concerned that their representation will be, or their representatives will be less accessible than they are at present, because not only are they going to have a much larger constituency, they're also going to have all the responsibilities currently managed by the county council as well as their existing ones. And I just wanted to make sure that that was brought out in the discussions today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Handley. Councillor John Williams, please.
Thank you, Chair. I support option B. One main reason for that we can hit the ground running with option B has already been said. We share a number of important services with the City Council. In particular, we are all aware of the government's wish for growth in Greater Cambridge, and the development of a development corporation eventually. And clearly, we and the city are in the best position to be able to deal with that. One of the things that I think has slightly been forgotten about in all the reports I've seen, and that's the effect on our council tenants. And I want to speak up for them, because we and the city are the only councils with council housing. And when you have council housing, you have a separate ring-fenced housing revenue account for that council housing. And basically it means that council tenants have to pay for their own repairs and pay for the development of their housing stock. Now, if we were to join with another district, and any district other than the city does not have council housing, so those tenants in South Cambs and the city will in effect be subsidising others if the joint authority, the unitary, decided to start building council houses or buying houses with council housing in another district that doesn't have it. So I think that's something that has been missing actually from nearly all the reports I have seen, and that is that effect on how tenants, who will, between us in Greater Cambridge, make up about 10% of the housing stock. So a lot of people, a lot of tenants who are, reason they're in council housing is because most of them are on low incomes, are going to be shouldering an tremendous burden if the unitary authority wants to develop council housing across its authority area rather than just keep it in the city and South Cambs. So I think that's something that's not been discussed as of yet, and is one of the reasons why I support B.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Next, Councillor James Hobrow, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think we've heard the main arguments that distinguish between the two options that we're choosing between today, options B and C. And I think these are primarily based on the economic viability of the two options. And this is really important because it's the foundation of all the services that these new unitary authorities will need to deliver. Without a strong economic base, the future of these units will be precarious, and essential services that some of our most vulnerable residents depend on, such as adult social care or children's services, will be at risk. When choosing between options B and C, it's clear to me that option B provides a more fair economic foundation for the two unitaries. We do not want to create a wealthy unitary with a neighbour that runs the risk of struggling to fund essential services. But I'd like to focus on the issue of making sure that our new unitary authority will be as representative of its constituents as possible. It's already difficult to find people to stand for public office in local government, and we have a weighting in councils towards those who are retired as opposed to being in full-time employment. Even today, with the workload of a district councillor, it can be difficult persuading people to stand for office, and this can damage our ability to represent the diversity of our electorate. One of my concerns about the whole local government reform process has been that this will get worse, as the responsibilities of a unitary are much greater than they are of a district council. Today, the two representatives that our residents have will be replaced with just one. And here we're making a choice between options B and C. It's clear from the documents that in option C, the wards or divisions would have to increase in size significantly compared with option B. Given the expectation of significant population growth in the Greater Cambridge area, there is a risk in all of these options of creating a democratic deficit. However, it seems clear that this risk is greater with option C than with option B. For this reason, in addition to the key issue of preserving the economic future of these unitaries, I will be supporting option B over option C.
Thank you, Councillor Hobrow. Next, Councillor Tom Bygott, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I will be supporting option C because it is the strongest and most sustainable choice for South Cambridgeshire, for our villagers and for the wider region. Firstly, option C is quite simply objectively better than option B when we examine the evidence without embellishment. Option C produces two authorities of comparable scale and capacity, each capable of standing on its own feet. Option B, by contrast, creates the most uneven pairing of any proposal, a very large northern authority with 612,000 people and a much smaller southern one with 322,000 people, far below the 500,000 target that the government has set, and one that is heavily exposed to the growth pressures on the Cambridge urban area. That level of imbalance is not a recipe for long-term stability. It's even more pronounced if we look at GDP per capita, where the north has 53,400 pounds per person per annum versus 33,200 for the south. So what's been done is to concentrate the wealth in the southern unitary and social problems in the north. That is not a good recipe for success. Secondly, option C keeps the A14 corridor together, linking Cambridge to Huntingdon and St Ives, which is very important for our economy. And thirdly, the option C delivers a far healthier balance between cities, towns and villages. It ensures that no single urban centre becomes overwhelmingly dominant, and that the voices of market towns and villages stand alongside the city as equal partners. In option B, the Southern Authority is so small and so tightly centred on Cambridge that the influence of villages and rural communities would inevitably be diminished. Under option B, the proposed Southern Unitary would be absorbed into the gravitational pull of of an expanding Cambridge megacity. Growth, densification and infrastructure pressure would all be focused on a very small unitary footprint centred on Cambridge. We will continue to have to build almost all the houses that Cambridge City needs, in addition to our own. And then lastly, I'm concerned about how much this document is trying to tell us that we should be supporting option B. I think there is significant evidence of bias in how this was presented. For example, if you turn to page 105 and see the potential savings and potential costs of each of the 5 options, you will see that in option B, there are proposed to be £42.8 million of savings, whereas in option A, which only differs by Huntingdonshire not being involved in the Northern Authority, there's only 12.1 million. And if you look at option C, which doesn't include East Cams, they're only 6.2 million. And I don't understand how, if you, and given that 96% of all this transformation happens in the Northern Authority, I don't understand how all this transformation is going to happen amongst 4 northern unitaries when only a tiny fraction of that will happen if you only have 3 rather than 4. That doesn't make any sense to me. So I am treating this report with a little bit of a grain of salt. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I got next, Councillor Mark Howell, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, I am a big fan of unitary authorities, so on that particular issue, I think this is a wonderful opportunity that we have. So, and I did say that when I was in the County Council, and I think, if I remember it was the only one who was very supportive about it in the County Council. Also, we have been a tied authority with the city for the last 15 years. Let's not get around it. We've got many services we do together, the local plan, many housing, shared waste services. We started off with many things small and built up, and it's worked well. We've had our problems, admittedly, but it has worked well. It's a natural symbiotic relationship. The biggest problem we have, if we don't have option B, and option B I think is the best option to go to, is what Councillor Williams said, which is with regards to the HRA account. So let's just say, for example, we have this and we go into another option with another authority, then do they make decisions on HRA matters which are only going to be in what was South Cambridgeshire and what was the city? We have what is known then as a West Lothian question, or maybe we should call it a Papworth question, because I'm the one who's raising it. And therefore, that is going to be a problem. How can we have somebody from Yaxley saying what's going to happen in 50 miles away in Linton, and therefore, but they don't have a HRA account themselves? They've got rid of their council houses many years ago. And that was an issue that I brought up when we first discussed this. We have to be able to do and stand up for our residents. And our residents includes council house tenants, and because they're council house tenants, the natural one to go to is the city. I will be supporting option B. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Howell. Councillor Shrabona Bhattacharya, please.
Thank you. I will support option C. And this is not the first time that council has made the decision, and that does not benefit our residents. So there is nothing surprising here. I still feel responsible for my residents in Camborne. That's why I am here today. But from the opposition bench here, and with so few numbers here, I don't think we can deliver the justice that our residents actually deserve.
Thank you, Councillor Bhattacharya. Next, Councillor Graham Cohn, please.
Thank you, Chair. Like Councillor Mark Howell, I also support unitary authorities and think it is something that we should be doing broadly, unlike some of my colleagues. But I would like to pick up on where I disagree with Councillor Mark Howell, in that I'm not overly passionate between A and C, but broadly, I wouldn't support B. And the reasons that I have for that that I think currently, when the government is looking to divide those numbers up, option C gives us the better numbers and would create two unitary authorities that are more equal. I think that option C pays back more quickly than any other option. And I think because we have shared services already between these councils, things like IT would be far better managed. Although I'm not hugely passionate between A and C, and there's huge amounts of difference, something that the leader said about Ely actually would also persuade me to opt for option C over option A, probably. So I think that's where I stand on it. I'll be supporting option C on balance between A and C, but B would be my least preferred option. Just to also pick up on something that Councillor Handley said about the report that we have in front of us, I would encourage you to also read the County Council report. And if you read that, you might very well think that everything was very geared towards option A, for example, or another council that was steering for option C. So I think we just all have to take that into account when we're reading these reports. They've used broadly the same evidence base, but different officers at different councils have presented a very different view, which is what we discussed at scrutiny. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Cohn. Councillor Sue Ellington, please.
Thank you. Just dropped the computer. Nothing serious. I too am concerned about going for option B because I feel we will miss out enormously on the advantages of 3C and our IT services. And I predict that if we do go for B, that there will be absolute IT chaos for a very long time before we pick up all the security issues and also the ability to go back through history and check how things became the way they are, which is very important when you think about creating a new authority with a lot of people who have no historical knowledge of what has gone on in the past and why things are the way they are. I'm also concerned around the, as Councillor Heather Williams said, the A14, A428 corridor because of the growth in the logistics sites, which have recently, we've recently become aware of. And the one picture in my brain at the moment is that with the introduction of the Black Cat junction, bringing lorries to the Caxton Gibbet, where and how are those lorries going to get to the A14 logistics sites? If we are linked with Huntingdon, there may be more ways of persuading them that they need to go that way to reach the top of the A14 and come back down it to the logistics sites. And I think that, for me and my village, is key in choosing the C option rather than the B option. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ellington. Does anyone else wish to speak on this item? Councillor Sally-Ann Hart, please.
Thank you, Chair. As usual, I'll be brief. And, having seen the papers and listened to tonight's debate, I will be supporting option B. And really, because for me, this is the fairest option, as it provides two unitary authorities that are going to be financially viable and therefore have the best chance of thriving into the future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hart. That was brief. Do I see any other requests to speak? If not, oh, Councillor Martin Khan, please.
Something very brief. We're proposing for the interests of our local area. Britain has the largest municipalities in Europe, and we're now trying to make them even bigger. From the point of view of our area, the proposal B offers the smallest authority, the closest to that, to our local members and our local people electing us. And that seems to me an argument, from our point of view, in favour of option B.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Any more requests to speak? If not, I will ask Councillor Milnes to bring the debate to a close. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So we've covered a gamut of issues in around the process of LGR. I think I'd agree with comments that have questioned its value and our ability to make the efficiencies that the government is seeking. I think the government has been very optimistic about that. So I think we rather agreed on that issue when we discussed this at our scrutiny committee. The government clearly sees our area, the Greater Cambridge area, as, I think the opposition called it a cash cow. But yes, I wasn't sure about your comment about putting it in your pipe and smoke it, but the growth that the government is looking for is key to its and our nation's capability. And I think that also is reflected in the imbalance between the two areas, B and the rest, option B and the rest, because although the geography is clearly imbalanced in there in terms of land mass, we've got a comparative figure of about 2 billion versus 1.7 billion between those two areas. So the economies, which is this clearly the issue that we were concentrating on, is very much more balanced in this than the other options available to us. We did talk, and I'll just reinforce this concern that we have over representation. And again, we've discussed this several times, and I think we share many of those concerns. The burden on councillors is already quite significant for relatively paucity of return. I mean, we definitely don't do this for the money. But if we are going to reduce the numbers of representatives, then I feel that the only option available is to make it a professional role that people can do full-time, particularly at cabinet level, who have extra levels of responsibilities. But whether the government will pay any attention to that, whether the new authorities, because it will be their decision as to how they remunerate their councillors, well, we can wait and see. There are several other issues that were brought up. I think this question of imbalance is really important. Peterborough is already a unitary authority, but it's very close to financial survival. It's much smaller than the government are recommending, and they need support of other councils around them. So that is, and I would like to say, soak of Peterborough, just because it's historically the derivation of that area. It's a lovely expression. And until as a northerner coming south, I didn't realise the reason it was called Isle of Ely was that it was an island. So there we are. It may be again one day, but there we are. So I'm clearly going to support option B. I think one of the difficulties that we are going to face is in removing one level of local government. We're going to introduce a DevCo, which will just put another layer of local government, although it's centrally led local government, in its place. I just really feel that's rather awkward. So,
could you bring your remarks to a close, please?
I'm just about to wrap up. I obviously pleased about the level of debate that we've had today. With that, I shall hand over to my leader with the support of option B heavily on my mind.
Thank you. Leader, can you sum up, please?
Thank you very much indeed. So thank you. It's been a good debate from everybody. Much appreciated. So I'll just pick up on some of the points that have been made, but I'd just like to remind you that 6 councils contributed to the creation of this business case, the option B business case, and it's been supported by three councils, each of which is led by a different political group. So I'll start on Councillor Bygott, who kind of cast aspersions on the validity of the data in the table on page 87. That data was taken from each of the separate business cases. So we didn't create that. That's extrapolated from each of the 5 business cases. So it's perfectly valid data. On which subject I must stand corrected on the payback time. However, we're talking about option C with an annual savings of 6.2 million compared with option B with a 42 million pound annual savings. So, I mean, there is just no comparison. And I suspect, I'm pretty sure, government, like myself, will see it as a no-brainer because they're motivated by saving money here. On the issue of rural balance, I believe that actually this does give a very good, strong balance between the rural voice and the urban voice. And, we have to work with our partners here. We have to, we're talking about setting up a unitary which includes Cambridge City, and it's important there is a balance. So I do believe that Greater Cambridge provides that balance. In relation to the Northern Unitary, I think, again, a strong argument against option C is that actually I think it keeps the problems and the poverty in the north and puts all the wealth in the south. And we can't do that. And government's made it quite clear that one cannot come up with proposals for unitaries that actually disadvantage other areas. And I think option C will seriously disadvantage a northern unitary. So, this is a balance, and albeit that Greater Cambridge is far smaller than the Northern Unitary, it does a balance of council base and the demand-led services. So, all the evidence that we've shown is that this will work for both of us, and it's just as important that it works for the Northern Unitary as it does for the Southern Unitary. The argument about council housing is for me really, really strong. We've just been looking at data today of our tenant satisfaction, which is all going up. It'd be a real shame to jeopardise that. And I think merging. It was on the cards under the previous administration to merge the two housing teams of City and South Cambs anyway. And City were quite miffed, actually, when we took over control and said we weren't prepared to do it at that point in time. So, it is doing actually what the previous Conservative administration had planned and what the City Council have long wanted. And it means that 1 in 10 houses will be owned by the Unitary Council, which makes it very powerful and hopefully gives us very strong leadership with government to continue to increase our housing stock as we are doing so successfully here. Councillor Ellington talked about IT chaos. Absolutely. And I've done some work with I won't name them, a fairly recently created very large unitary where I think they're 3 years down the line and they reckon they're another 3 years away from actually unifying the IT services. So it's a massive risk. But, the fact that we already have shared IT, albeit with Huntington at the moment, I think means we're on the front foot there.
Leader, can you draw your remarks to a close,
and on the A14, A48, actually, I don't think it'll make any difference. We already function across boundaries between district councils and county councils already. So I must thank Liz in particular for a phenomenal amount of work that has gone into the creation of this business case. It has been really, really hard, and to be doing that on top of business as usual. Again, I thank our colleagues in East Cambridgeshire and in Cambridge City for the collaboration there, and obviously all our other colleagues who I know have contributed. And I thank our opposition here as well for constructive debate, both today and also in the scrutiny meeting. So with that, I do hope that when it goes to a vote, I hope that we will be supporting option B as the best way forward for our residents, but the residents of the whole of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough.
Thank you. Councillor Heather Williams.
Just a point of information, I tried really hard just at the end. It was just for clarity and accuracy. It's related to the savings. Both have a net cost. Option C has a net cost of 7.8 million. Option B has a net cost of 14.6. The leader said there was more savings, but actually there's not. And there's no savings overall to all of them.
So the 42.8 million savings is an annual saving. Would you like the Chief Executive to clarify that?
No, but you've got the cost. That's why you've got the payback periods.
Yes,
so
I know.
See the payback period on C is less because the net cost is less.
No, I understand.
Thank you. I think that point is noted. Okay, we've reached the end of the debate. We're now going to take a vote in two parts. First part, can I ask Council to confirm by affirmation that we note recommendations A and B? That is, note recommendations A and B. Okay, does anyone disagree? Understood. We now move to a vote on the recommendation in front of you on the screen there, which is to choose between recommending option B or option C to Cabinet. Dem Services, can you set up a recorded vote, please? Members should press green for option B, red for option C, or yellow to abstain. I can repeat that if it's not. Thank you. So it's green for option B, red for option C, yellow to abstain. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Result is 21 in favour of option B, 6 in favour of option C, and no abstentions. Thank you all. That concludes debate on this item and brings this extraordinary meeting to a close. Thank you.